Welcome into Backstretch Banter on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing as we are about a month into the show. This is our fourth episode. I'm Chris Childers, your host. We are having so much fun every week, just going behind the scenes, talking to crew chiefs and talking to spotters and guys who work with the strength side of things. And we are getting a little bit of everything from the race team throughout the season. We really want you to know what goes into these races, what's happening behind the scenes. We're all watching on Sunday. We all can see who finishes first through 10th and the points and the playoff standings. And we can hear the drivers afterward talk about, our pit crew did this or that, but what about Monday through Friday? What about all the people that make it all happen? So that's what we love doing on this show. And I gotta believe that everybody on the team's in good spirits after what happened in Phoenix last week, finishing 2 with the 17, 4 with the number 6 car, and there's a lot of momentum going into Bristol. So we have a great show today. Most of it is going to be occupied by the crew chief of the number 17 for Chris Buescher. Scott Graves going to join us through most of the show. But right now, let's talk to Brandon Lee. He joins us again to recap Phoenix and look ahead to Bristol. He's the senior director of communications for the team, RFK. Brandon Lee, what's up, dude? How are you?
What's happening, Chris? Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Phoenix was amazing. I was sitting there watching it in Nashville. I was with Dom DeFruzio from SiriusXM NASCAR Radio fame, and we were sitting at the DraftKings Sports Bar in Nashville, and we went to watch the race, and things were kind of ho-hum for a while. Then in stage 3, it got interesting, and we end up finishing 2 and 4. From your perspective, how would you describe Sunday in Phoenix?
Yeah, I would say to start off, it's just what the doctor ordered. In a lot of ways, that's what we needed. But yeah, as you said, it's funny, Chris. A lot of times you're not quite sure how these races are going to play out. Once you get into them, even as recent as stage 2, and then you look to stage 3, and it could be a whole different scenario. And obviously, as it turns out in Phoenix, we had a little bit of a fuel mileage game going on. Fortunately, we were on the right side of that in both cases, and some guys were not. But either way, take that side out of it. We had 2 top 10 cars by stage 2 and really top 5 cars by the middle part of stage 3. So that alone is something you'll take away and a strong point for the weekend.
Huge strong point for the weekend. I would say there's so much giddiness from people that like RFK just going into Bristol. Just things are good. The team's what we thought it was. The team's what we thought going into the season with all the hype, and everybody said the team to watch was RFK. And Chris Buescher going to victory lane 3 times last year was a huge deal. To start off the season, all the naysayers wanted to be like, see, they're not as good as we thought. I think last week was confirmation that all the hard work during the summer and all the hard work in previous years certainly has put this team in a good position for 2024. Give me an idea of the meetings that have happened Monday on, the attitude of the bosses, the attitude of the crew chiefs after you have 2 top 5s over the weekend.
Yeah, well, obviously it's all more positive, right? Especially when I would throw this in, when you come off the West Coast where it's 2 unique weeks, pretty grueling, back-to-back, going back and forth and making sure cars get swapped over. Obviously, to end it on a high like that goes a long way for morale of both teams and going into another strong track like Bristol. But, yeah, you said it. I mean, obviously, results drive attitudes in a lot of ways, and not that we were completely beat down to start the year, but, 2 top 5s, you'll take those any day you can get it. We saw a lot of that success last year and had a good taste of that. So to get that again, in Phoenix was really good for the team and a boost in morale.
Both cars finished. The cars weren't beat up. They weren't having, they didn't have to take them back and piece them all together. So from that perspective, really good weekend. Now you go to Bristol. It's a different mindset. It's a different kind of racing. It's a different track. It's the last great Coliseum. It's one of my favorite races. It really is. Whether it's night or afternoon, it is so much fun just to be in there. And the noise that this kind of reverberates inside those seats is really cool. How does this team feel about their package and how things translate to Bristol Motor Speedway?
Yeah, I would say really good. Bristol, obviously Chris finally got a win there back in 2022 in the fall. And you said it, Chris, but it's a favorite of a lot of people's for many different reasons. But I even heard Chris as recent as this weekend talking about, at this point in his career, you go to a lot of these racetracks and you maybe don't get quite the same feeling and emotion you got the first time you drove in that tunnel. But I heard him say at Bristol, he gets that same giddy kind of chill bumps feeling every time. And I think a lot of people think that. So Bristol's obviously been good to us. Last fall, Chris finished top 5. Both had good runs going there. We dodged some rain, I believe, if I remember correctly. But, this is the first time that we're back on the concrete at Bristol, which is a definite storyline going into the weekend for the spring race. So, looking back at our short track program, I think as recent as Phoenix, if you want to get in the weeds of what that type short track is, but compare last year, I believe we had 6 top 10s combined on short tracks in 2023. So all that to say, Bristol is obviously a place we're looking forward to going to. If we can take some of that success from the last couple of years, then we should be in a really good spot for this weekend.
Brandon Lee is our guest here, the Senior Director of Communications for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing, Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio. I'm curious about your life as a guy who's a Senior Director of Communications this year. I feel like NASCAR is getting some sort of bolt of energy. I think the ratings are up. I saw the fan support in Phoenix. I think it was sold out. That's on right. Sunday. It was all fill. Daytona was off the charts. I was in Atlanta. That finish was off the charts. From your perspective as somebody who deals with the media, deals with other people, are you feeling that the sport is really in a good position right now this season?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take much to notice that type of thing. As you said, we go to Phoenix.
Like the Phoenix crowd was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it was a sellout. A lot of times, Chris, they'll save those announcements for kind of the driver's meeting and right before, and they did that in Phoenix. It's a good talking point for the track president to go in and tell the drivers, hey, we sold this race out again. And that happens pretty often recently, which is obviously a good thing. To your point, it's one of those things that, it's been a long time coming, and I think a lot of people in the league have worked really hard to get to that point. It's noticeable. You look at the campground this weekend, we had some sponsors and friends out there, and they were talking about, man, the campground's packed compared to in the past, and you trickle that all the way into the fans in the stands. So it's obviously good to see. It is a domino effect. You can feel it and hear it and see it throughout the sport, which is obviously a good thing for all involved.
How important was last weekend for Roush Fenway Keselowski, and from a sponsorship perspective? There was a lot done. I mean, Consumer Cellular really invested in this race. They had commercials. They were out there with the convertible. We had a guest on from their company last week who was outstanding, talking about all the nuances of what they're going to do from an activation standpoint with RFK. I thought it looked really good sitting at home in Nashville. You could tell that Consumer Cellular really went all out and really wanted to do a lot to partner with Brad. Being at the track, how was that activation and how did people take to it?
Yeah, it was huge. Obviously, anytime you can take a driver to an activation in the fan zone, obviously you're going to have those diehard Brad fans that come to that. But even then, just having a new partner do that also goes a long way. And I know, we found this out after the fact. Both of our partners ran commercials, I believe, back to back, maybe in the same TV break, which says a lot.
Built Submarines was right before. Yep.
Exactly.
I was watching at the time. I was like, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, not going to take credit. We didn't plan that, but we will take how that panned out.
Yeah.
Anytime, this day and age, anytime you have partners that are activating in that way and you have national TV spots, that's obviously a big deal. But yeah, that activation space was awesome as well. We took Brad out there, had a good time with those fans. They'll obviously, if they can start it off like that, they've got a good road ahead with their remaining races for the year. So,
what's the input been like so far from Built Submarines? They've been at the Atlanta race. They were there last weekend. They're going to be on the car this week at Bristol.
That's right.
For those that don't know, this is how you can build a submarine. I mean, you could help the Navy, help America. It's a very patriotic thing. And have a career building a submarine. I mean, if you're an engineer, what's cooler than that? How has the partnership been? Because anytime I see I call it, the submobile, it's pretty cool to see a company that cool on the hood of the 17.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been really good positive feedback so far. I know we've gotten a couple reports in the last year or so that have kind of pointed back to how these results have increased since our partnership was announced. We've even got some case studies here in our building that kind of prove that. But yeah, they've been really satisfied. I think they reminded us this week after the race that I believe they've had 13 races now as a primary partner. They've finished top 10 in 9 of those. So no pressure when they're on the car. But yeah, it's been really cool to see. And they have an in-car camera almost every week they're on the car, which is obviously also something you don't see quite every week. So they're definitely engaged. They always have hospitality space. Every now and then they'll activate in the fan zone. So yeah, it's really cool largely to be working with partners that really engage with the fans and do the right thing. And to have them both do that in one race at Phoenix was especially awesome. So we look forward to more of that.
I got to think RFK's most popular sponsor from just a nationwide consumer level is this weekend on the number 6. Everybody loves King's Hawaiian bread. I can't literally find anybody that doesn't love it, that doesn't enjoy it in some way, form, or fashion, and has that actively in their pantry at any time. Right? I guarantee you, if you came to my house, you would see it at any given time, any given week, any given day. There'd be a package of it, including now. That's a cool sponsorship. And I thought it was kind of neat this week, Brandon, that we found out both the Consumer Cellular and King's Hawaiian have the same color orange in the car.
Yeah, who knew, right? Again, those are those types of things we don't necessarily plan
detail
on the front end, but yeah, we do some digging, and I won't take credit for that when our team discovered that. So
that was cool.
Yeah.
The
who
more
knew,
you know,
right?
they said. I liked it. I thought that was a cool
little
tidbit.
And for them to be back-to-back, even cooler. So
really cool, and I think it's going to be fun. Kind of orange is becoming the what is it? Orange is the new black. It's becoming the new cool color for RFK.
That's right.
And number 6, it really is. I think it looks awesome out there on the racetrack. Bristol this weekend. We're talking about it. We're recapping Phoenix. Brandon Lee, our guest. He's the Senior Director of Communications. Brandon, a pleasure. We're going to make some time here for our boy Scott Graves to jump in and talk about the expectation for Bristol this weekend. He's got to be excited because he knows that these guys have a chance, knowing his history there with Chris Buescher. So we'll talk to Scott in a minute. But Brandon, always good to talk to you, buddy. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you. Take care.
Really good to talk to our boy Brandon Lee. And again, King's Hawaiian on the 6 car this weekend, and buildsubmarines.com on the 17 and 2. I mean, come on. They don't necessarily go hand in hand. I don't know if we're building submarines while eating King's Hawaiian bread. I guess you could. But 2 great things, 2 great, beautiful things, American things there with King's Hawaiian and buildsubmarines.com. Let's break. We'll come back. Scott Graves, crew chief of the 17 car, coming up next right here at SiriusXM's Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. We are back here. It is Backstretch Banter on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio with RFK Racing. I'm Chris Childers, your host. It is about a month into the NASCAR season now, coming off a really good showing in Phoenix for RFK, the number 17 car finishing 2nd, the number 6 finishing 4th. We got one of the crew chiefs with us right now for the number 17. Mr. Scott Graves is our guest. He is Chris Buescher's crew chief. Scott, it is awesome to sit here and talk with you today, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I was just talking to Brandon, and I want to get from your perspective as a crew chief. The first 3 weeks of the season, from your perspective, would be described how? And was last week somewhat cathartic for the team to finish in 2nd?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, the first 3 weeks, chaotic. We knew starting off with the 2 speedway races that was going to be tough. That's, you never know what's going to happen in those things. They're kind of crazy. And then Vegas, man, we felt like we had a really good car and had a good day going, and obviously had the pit stop deal with the loose wheel. Entered a day early there, so we really needed the finish at Phoenix. It was good for us. We know, I mean, like, we've got confidence based, off of last year and even the year before what we've been able to do, and really kind of struggled out of the gate with the first couple of races. So Phoenix was, it was validating for us. Okay, we still got it. We can still do this, and I mean, like I say, it made us feel a whole lot better after that one.
Car's been good. The car was good in Daytona. It was good in Atlanta. Little bad luck maybe at times. Certainly you described what happened out there in Vegas, which was really bad luck, but the car was running really good up until that moment and had a chance there at the beginning of stage 1 to get some real points. I want to know from your perspective as a crew chief, you're really disappointed. Everybody's going to be probably really, let's be honest, pissed off after what happened in Vegas. As a leader, as somebody who's the manager of the 17, essentially, how do you manage those moments with your crew? How do you manage it mentally to make sure that everybody's still not, too beaten down by everything? I gotta believe, considering the emotions, it's a bit of a delicate dance, no?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the main thing is just keeping everybody positive, like keeping the confidence level there. I mean, we know, just reminding everybody, like, I mean, we can go back and look at our season last year and what we're able to accomplish. I mean, we're that same team still. It's the core. Everybody's come back. The pit crews come back. We know what we're capable of. So it's just reminding everybody of that. And, it's like I say, things happen. I mean, we're competing at the top level of racing, right? And we're asking these guys to go out and turn 9-second pit stops consistently. It's like we're always saying, hey, you got to be as fast as you can, but oh, by the way, no mistakes. It's going to happen sometimes. I know everybody gets really mad. You see it all out on social media and everything like this. Like, why can't these guys do this right? And it's like, man, we're really asking them to do a lot. So the pressure's on. And then the main thing is like just to not let it get in their heads. Like, these guys are really good. I don't want them like focusing on every stop. Like, oh man, I can't mess up. Because that's just going to slow them down. So I don't want that either. So it's a delicate balance. It's just, really just remind everybody, hey guys, we can do this. Let's keep the confidence there. We know that maybe early season we're trying to, work out some of the kinks and get back in our stride, but we're going to get there and it's going to be all right.
Is there anything you had to adjust in practice this week and in practice with the pit crew guys? Is there anything they had to do differently, or was it just, hey, it's a mental thing and we just got to be fundamentally sound?
Yeah, really just, we went back, really reviewed what happened in Vegas. Just obviously we got procedures for when that happens, and it's just really just kind of just checking off, make sure that we followed everything that we were supposed to do there. And if there wasn't, then all right, let's make sure that we make the right adjustments. So we worked on that a little bit, through practice, got everybody confident. Okay, yeah, we got this again, and then just went into the race, and everything was pretty good for us this week.
It was really good. You finished too. You finished in a good spot, and Christopher Bell was rocking all day. I don't think anybody was going to catch him, barring some caution there at the end. So to get P2, considering the day, I think phenomenal. I mean, you can't ask much more from the team, from Busher, from the guys in the pit, from the crew chief, the spotter. I think everybody was working beautifully last week, and certainly gives a lot of confidence going into Bristol. And this is a place where the team knows they could win. Last week, you took some gambles. You took some fuel gambles. Were you shocked at all at the end that you lasted as long as you did out there, considering the fuel situation?
It was tight. Obviously, we got the lucky break for us was the caution that came out.
Yep.
I don't know, 3 or 4 laps after we'd pit. When we pit, we knew we were probably 4 laps short, 5 laps short. And that was kind of our only play. I mean, like we knew we had a good long run car. We had worked our way up to 10th. And we knew just, the way it was playing out for us to get farther up was going to be really difficult by the end of the race. And we needed to do something a little different. So it was a stretch on our window when we did pit. But luckily for us, I mean, the caution fell just right. Even felt like even after that caution, we were probably a lap short, somewhere in that range. But as the run went, just kind of watching lap times and just enough fall off, it kind of came to us. There were a few laps there towards the end once we got into second where it was like, all right, we're not going to make up the 6 seconds here in the last 10 laps or whatever it was to the 20 car. So let's hold our position, just manage your gap behind you, give me some early lifts into the corners, get us a little bit of mileage, and he was able to do that, and worked out.
It worked out beautifully. It really did, and things are fantastic going into Bristol this week. The team's got to pick me up. There's a pep in the step of everybody. There's confidence. You could win in Bristol. You've done it before, so certainly this is a track that everybody's pretty pumped up about, and it's Bristol. I mean, it's just fun. I live in Tennessee and Nashville, and this is one of my favorite trips to make out east every single year, whether it be for the night race or for the day race. It's pretty damn fun to be at that place, the last great Coliseum, as they call it, and it really is. Scott Graves is our guest. He is the crew chief for the number 17 car. I want to talk more about your relationship with Chris and the experience that you have with him in a little bit, and Xfinity, and how it's all kind of translated to where you're at right now. But let's get into Bristol a little bit before we do that. Um, Vegas is different. Phoenix is obviously its own beast, and Bristol's a whole another way of life. How different do things have to be from your preparation perspective when you go to a short track like Bristol, if at all?
It's I mean the process isn't a ton different. Obviously the setup's different. I mean, really from your speedways to Vegas to Phoenix to now Bristol, like, completely different setups for all those styles of tracks. But the process we go through to get there is real similar. Really, even with this car, I mean, there might be things that we had looked at in the past, previous generation of cars that you'd prep, body wise, do things a little bit different. With this car is really the car we're running these days is really taking out a lot of that. You're bringing the same cars to all these tracks. So really, it's more just the setup side, getting that right, and just Chris loves Bristol. It's one of his favorite tracks, and he runs great there. He's really excited. It's concrete again for the spring race, as we all are. So that's looking forward to that. It always puts on. I mean, to me, it puts on some great racing there. And like you said, it is like a Coliseum feel. The crowd you get there. I mean, it's a pretty cool place.
It's really cool. As a fan, it can get a little bit wild trying to just tell where everybody is. I mean, who's behind, who's in lap traffic, who's not, who the hell's out front. It is like, to me, it's like the little motorcycle guys at the circus that are just going around and around and around. Yeah. But once you can figure it out, what do you think it's like for a spotter when it comes to a short track compared to, let's say, Daytona, where there's so much mileage to cover? And how does that, I mean, those guys are constantly in your ear too, telling you what's going on. How does that affect you? And what is the difference that is there any advice, anything you tell a spotter to do differently at a short track?
Spotting at Bristol, it's one of the busier ones.
Gotta be, right? It's crazy.
If you listen to Herm, our spotter, I mean, you're always, I mean, it
sounds like an auctioneer kind of.
Yeah. Because it's happening so fast there. I mean, every lap, like you said, and then you got lap traffic, you got, guys that you're racing. It happens fast there. So there's a lot of conversation. Probably the one that had the most, like, that I've heard Herm have to talk on the radio was the Atlanta race. But Bristol, it's more towards that. It's more towards like a speedway as far as like the amount of talking the spotters are doing versus some of the other tracks where cars get spread out a little bit more. But definitely he's pretty busy there. Really, it's just a matter of, like, advice. I mean, Herm's been doing this a long time. He's so good at it. We just talk about a lot. The only advice, like, we'll talk about is restarts. We'll talk about which lanes seems to be the favorable lane for a start, things like that. And but a lot of that in terms of spotting and what Chris is looking for. I mean, Herm's got that dialed in pretty good.
How much do you know about the car before you get to a racetrack? How much are you involved with the Monday through Thursday before the car leaves, and what they're doing, the engineers, the tweaking, getting the car up to its, maximum ability? How much does the crew chief have to do with that?
Pretty involved. Now even, I think even now the teams are, I would say in the last few years, are a little bit smaller. Just roster reductions of what we take to the track. It's a little bit smaller, which I've kind of liked. It reminds me a little bit more of my Xfinity days, and allows me
grassrootsy.
And it allows me to be more involved. I've always, just being an engineer by background, I've always leaned towards the engineering side. So I'm pretty involved with my engineers and the setup side and what we're doing. Got a really good car chief in Josh Sisko, and we talk about here's the details on the car that every week of what I think's important, what we need to do, and I let him work on a lot of that stuff. And I spend a lot of time with my engineers just figuring out what we're going to do setup wise, and what do we need to look at from past races, what do we need to do differently in areas like that. So I like to try to stay pretty involved. It's I've been in situations or places where bigger teams and you're not as involved, and that to me isn't a good. It's just not a good feeling. I like to know the details, what's in the car, so that we're in a practice situation or the race situation, and knowing what changes are going to be the right changes, what makes the right adjustment. So that's I like to stay involved with it from that standpoint.
So what's your honest gut feeling? Do you think your guys like a crew chief that understands the engineering perspective, that can kind of be in their business a little bit and tell them what to do? Or do you think they're like, dude, we get it, we know what we're doing? I got to think, though, at the end of the day, they probably love having somebody who gets it.
Yeah, it's I probably would think, because I've been in the situation as an engineer in the past, and
Sure,
definitely there's times where you're like, oh, man, kind of let me do my job.
I
got this,
yeah.
and
Yep.
so I try to be mindful of that, but I have
Yeah.
no doubt there are times where they're like, come on, man, just let us take this. But like I say, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable having my hands in that part of it.
Yeah, which I think I would think that it would make for a better collaboration, working collaboration, when you have everybody on the same page like that. We're talking to Scott Graves here. He is the crew chief for the number 17 car, which is the Build Submarines Ford Mustang this weekend, the number 17, as it goes to Bristol Motor Speedway. And buildsubmarines.com is such a cool sponsor. It really is. For those people that don't know what it is, go to the website. You can start a career building submarines and helping America defend itself. And I can't think of a more noble and patriotic career and a cooler career to work on subs. Scott, you're an engineer. I would think that would be a pretty cool fallback career, no? To build submarines.
That's right. No, it is a cool sponsor. And they have a great presence at the track whenever they come out, and they're behind us all the way. So it's really cool having them on board.
Yeah, I've seen them out in Atlanta. I was there in Atlanta, saw them out there. They were there last week. They're going to be there this week. They have been super involved. So everybody, if you need a job and you're an engineer and you
That's right.
love your country, buildsubmarines.com is a really cool place to go. By the way, if you're looking for dinner tonight, King's Hawaiian Rolls, they'll be on the cover of the number 6 car this weekend as the 2 primaries for RFK, as we talk to Scott Graves, who is the crew chief for the number 17. Bristol is this weekend. The confidence for this team has got to be through the roof. You've been with Busher. You've worked with him for a while. You won a championship with him. You won 3 races last year with him. How would you describe your day-to-day, your confidence level, your relationship with Chris Busher?
It's good. Obviously, we've worked well together, just from the past and the Xfinity days to now. It's really cool to see how much he's matured and changed through all that. How much his driving craft and the things that he's learned. It's cool, and be able to turn that and help him be successful in the Cup Series, getting those race wins and things like that. It's a lot of fun for me. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish, and really enjoy working with him. He's a great driver, but he's also a great person. He's always really, really calm. I would say there's probably a lot of people that, that they're a little envious that I get to work with him. Like, you hear some of the guys on the radios, they're just yelling throughout the race how bad everything is, and there's probably times where Chris rightfully should be yelling and could be yelling at us, but he always manages to keep his cool. But I also think that's part of the success is he's able to keep that calm head throughout the race and help us figure out what we need to be better, and so that works out pretty well for us.
I'm actually amazed. It's funny you bring that up, because I think both drivers are like that. Even Brad. I was sitting in his pit box behind Matt McCall during the Atlanta race, and it was when he got into that when he got loose and all that. And just the nonchalantness of the conversation, like, sorry guys, you guys were amazing, blah blah blah. It's like, I'd be losing my mind right now. I was in a position, I was in second or third place to win the race. I guess some of that probably comes with experience, but I've also listened to a lot of radios where guys go nuts. Does that, like, when, for example, everybody, I'm sitting there as a fan of RFK, and I'm like, God, what happened with the tire in Vegas? But to have that kind of calmness about it, what does that do as far as the stress level for the entire season, because this thing is a marathon and not a race. And I got to think staying like this, which is flat, as nobody can see me on the radio, and not, the roller coaster. It's got to be good for your mental health, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, yeah, the Vegas thing. I mean, we could, as a team, we could sit there and just continue to be upset about it and really just beat everybody up, but in the end, like that's not gonna get us anywhere, right? It's like you said, it's a long season. We have to be able to put that behind us, make sure that we're doing everything we can that it doesn't happen again. But you gotta put it behind you and move forward. And I think Chris is really good at that. As a team, we're good at that. And you just like say, you hit those bumps. They're gonna happen in the sport, and you just got to make sure that you're doing everything to make sure that you're going to prevent that from happening again, and learn from it, get better, and move on.
Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. Chris Childers here. I'm your host with Scott Graves, the crew chief of the number 17 Ford Mustang for Chris Buescher, the BuildSubmarines.com number 17 Ford Mustang this weekend in Bristol. Let's break. We'll get to know more about Scott and his life behind the scenes of racing when we come back on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Welcome back. It is Backstretch Banter with SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. RFK Racing is the team that we focus on each and every week. If you're new to the show, this is about a month in, and we just go behind the scenes. Everybody can watch the races on Sunday and listen to the radios and kind of find out the gist of what's going on, but we want you to get a feel for what's happening behind the scenes, in the garages, at the headquarters, in the meetings, in the offices. How is the process? What is it like for these teams getting ready for these races? And the amount of work that goes into it across the board is just insane. Scott Graves still with us here for the rest of the show, the crew chief for the number 17 car, the Roush Fenway Ford Mustang number 17, BuildSubmarines.com Mustang this weekend in Bristol. Scott, give me an idea of your day-to-day existence as a crew chief. I was talking about this last week with a spotter, and he was telling me about film study and things that he did to get ready for the upcoming race, and tendencies on restarts and stuff like that he wants to communicate with the drivers, his drivers' tendencies, other driver tendencies. You've got to manage all of that. You got to manage the team, the driver, the crew, you're the crew chief, the spotter, etc. What is your Monday through Friday like, or really Monday through Thursday like, as far as meetings, management? How are you spending your time in Charlotte?
Yeah, it's a mix of we got the meetings. Like a Monday, we come in. We're always doing like kind of all our wrap up of the weekend, the previous weekend. In terms of like team and notes, and then we do like a competition debrief, both teams together, both drivers kind of go through the weekend performance and get all that done. So Monday is a lot of time just spent kind of wrapping up the previous weekend, and then might hit a little bit on the upcoming week, and then by the time you come back in on Tuesday, it's full tilt on the upcoming week, going through the the setup side of it. Basically, a lot of times that starts with like you pull up the last event setup and what you had. You're looking at that, kind of combining that with driver comments, feedback. What did we need to do differently? And then you're kind of creating that. What's that setup going to look like? Myself, engineers, sitting down talking about what areas do we need to look at and work on to come up with the setup for this, for the upcoming week. So it's like a lot of Tuesday. I'm also, working with my car chief and the guys out in the shop on the car prep side, and what details we need to have there. If it's a short track versus a bigger track, what kind of brake cooling, what kind of gear cooling, all that stuff we're going to need on the car. And then Wednesday is that's kind of obviously as we're getting closer to the weekend, I start looking at a little bit of maybe some of like the strategy notes. What did guys do in the previous race? Start looking at some film of the previous race. And then we also have on Wednesday afternoons another kind of a competition meeting, both teams together, of like just to discuss what are we going to be looking at in practice. What do we think the track's going to be like? What are the racing conditions going to be like? We kind of look at that, and usually by the end of the day on Wednesday, we're also, at that point, we're ready to load the car up for the weekend. Usually late Wednesdays or early Thursdays is when that happens.
So I'm curious. RFK's got 2 teams. You've got the 17 and the 6. How much time? You said Monday, I think, and Wednesday. Do you talk to Matt McCall, who's the crew chief for the 6, a lot throughout the week? Do you guys share notes? What is that Graves to McCall, crew chief to crew chief relationship with inside a team?
Yeah, it's we're offices right next to each other. Our engineers sit right outside of our offices, all in the same space. So it's all set up to where we all can communicate easily. Just looking across the table or whatever to be able to talk to each other. So yeah, we talk. We actually, like I say, we'll talk about what we're thinking setup wise, kind of just at a high level, and then the engineers that were obviously they're sharing models and what some of the finer details of what we're looking at setup wise. So it's week to week we talk a good amount, just either through meetings or even just in casual conversation, and then obviously each of us know just from the engineering side of it, we have full access to what the other's looking at. So it's pretty good open book situation in terms of being able to see what each other's doing.
Does it ever get spicy at all if somebody doesn't do exactly what they said they were going to do on race day? I mean, we see it all the time in Formula One because everybody's got only the 2 drivers, and sometimes they wreck each other out, which is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's there are times that, can't lie, there's times of a little bit of tension if like one of us is having a bad streak and the other one's running well. I mean, there's times where it's like it just, whether it's real or created mentally, there's like a little bit of tension and
tension,
sure. Between teams. It happens. It's you gotta really work on making sure that it doesn't creep into something bigger and cause problems. So it's but it's part of the sport. It's hard because you're teammates, but you're out there still competing against each other. I mean, you're one of the the 40 cars out there that's looking for a spot. So it like I say, can get tough sometimes, but you just gotta make sure you're aware of that and make sure it doesn't turn into something bigger.
Is it weird? I hate to pry too much, but I'm curious. Is it weird at all when the other guy's driver is one of the co-owners of the team? Does that make it odd at all?
Yeah. I mean, it can be. Yeah. It's it can be a little different at times when, I mean, he'll come in and ask like, hey, what's going on with your team? Like what are you guys working on? Or, I mean, it's different at times.
Different dynamic.
Yeah.
Different dynamic. Well, anyway, I just thought that would be interesting to learn about because everybody's human, right? And humans, I always say that, I work in football all the time, and I said it's not the football that's complicated, it's the people that are complicated. It's not the racing that is complicated, it's the people that are complicated. And I think that applies to anything in life, right? And it's managing all the people and the egos and the results and all of that. And the teams that can do it well seem to have a lot of success consistently. And I'll say this, if you guys can run top 5 every week, P2, P4, like last week, nobody's going to be mad. No. Everybody's going to be happy. No. There's going to be kumbaya. I got to imagine there was a lot of happy people in the office this week when it came to running P2 and P4, right?
It's amazing how running well like fixes all kinds of stuff, especially you have both cars up there like that. I mean, it takes care of a lot of problems.
Takes care of a lot of problems, and I would imagine after the first 3 weeks, you needed just a little shot in the arm, just a little. We're good. Yep. Everything's fine. Everything we worked on in the summer or leading up to this is absolutely perfect. We're gonna be great.
That's right.
And it looks good. I mean, really, it does. And I think we saw the results of that this past weekend. I talked to Matt McCall a little bit about this. The boys were telling me you're a big fitness guy as well, and I know your job is difficult, right? You're not doing a physical job, but I think working out, keeping your body up to snuff has a lot to do with how you can get through the grind, the travel, everything that goes into it. How important is the fitness aspect of your life, and how critical do you think it is for you to do your job well?
Yeah, I think I mean, to me, it's really important. One, it always kind of just, so I do a lot of biking, a lot of running. It just kind of helps clear my head at times. And it's kind of I don't know, when you get out there and you're running or you're biking, for an hour or 2 hours at a time, it just kind of lets you work out a lot of stuff in your in your head, that you've been thinking about it. So it's a good time for that. And plus, in the sport, it's I'm working with a lot of younger guys. I got to be able to keep up with them, right? So it's to me, it's important just to stay in shape. Like I say, it has a lot of benefits for me, and I think it helps out. I think it helps out with my job and what I do on a daily basis.
Do you just bike and run, or do you use the RFK workout facilities and all that stuff too?
Yeah, so I use that too. It's actually more this year. One thing we started doing that's been really cool, I think, for our team is we'll go down and we'll work out. We'll have pit practice, so like full team behind the wall, pit crew, and then we're trying to work that into where we actually go have a full team workout afterward too. So that's kind of a cool thing. It's been we've been able to do it not as consistently as I'd like this year, but we've done it probably 5 or 6 times now. And it's really cool because we've had some good we'll have some competitive workout type things where we'll split the group in half, and whether it's on they have these air attack bikes, or we'll see who can put out the most watts in a given amount of time. And so it's kind of a cool competitive thing amongst the team, and we're all getting a good workout. Like I say, I mean, it's you watch these guys at the track, the mechanics, and what they're having to do, whether it's running tires or pushing a car and different things like that. I mean, it's a lot of physical activity. So it's just being able to exercise a little bit, stay in shape. It does help when you get to the track, and especially you get into some of these hot summer months places where it'll really wear you down. So it's I think it's good for everybody to do that, and it's also a good team building deal.
Does your 17 pit crew, is it loaded with athletes? Do you have a pretty athletic background with guys? I mean, I see a lot of football players and wrestlers and all that kind of stuff when I go to the track. A lot of guys that played NCAA sports. What's the 17 pit crew look like? Yeah,
we do. Not all of them, but there's I want to say 2 or 3 that have football background or some kind of a lot of see some guys that have been in wrestling, they've
They're
been
good at moving.
They were in a college sport of some sort, which is good. I mean, they've got the physical training, but they also have the discipline and the mental side of it from being in a sport, and they're able to actually, it's surprising how they're able to convert that over to being part of a pit crew, and that discipline and everything, how they work together. It seems to work out pretty well.
I'm actually not surprised, because I think sport is sport, and you learn that teamwork, efficiency, how to meet deadlines, how to be on time, and I think all of that certainly would translate, and how to work hard, right? And how to work with a team effectively, and not let egos get in the way and stuff like that, and not get too down on your teammate. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, for the other guys to pick their teammate up who made a mistake. I think that's every bit as important as anything else. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I think athletics and college sports and stuff like that really helps guys to be good pit guys. And so I was interested what the 17 background looked like. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got one more segment as we look ahead to Bristol. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. I'm Chris Childers with the crew chief of the number 17 car, Scott Graves. Stick around. We got more coming up. It's NASCAR Radio Channel 9. We are back. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. I'm Chris Childers, your host. With me is the crew chief of the number 17 Ford Mustang for RFK Racing, the BuildSubmarines.com Mustang this weekend, driven by Chris Buescher. Scott Graves is our guest, the crew chief there for the 17. We've had a lot of fun talking to Scott throughout the show, talking about the team, the behind the scenes. This is what I love about it. We get to know these guys. We get to understand what happens during the week, what they're doing, the communication, the fitness level, all the different things that lead to what we see over the weekend on Sundays. And over the weekend, we saw something beautiful for RFK as we had the 17 car finished number 2, and the number 6 car finished 4, and they've created a lot of buzz coming out of it as a result. Scott, we'll get one more thought on Bristol in a second, but when you look at where NASCAR is overall, I was saying something to Brandon Lee a little bit earlier with the team. I don't know if you can notice it from your perspective in the box, but I feel like the sport is getting healthier and healthier by the day. We had a sellout in Phoenix. The Atlanta race created a lot of buzz. Do you notice that from your position, how NASCAR is kind of in this resurgence over the last year, I would say?
Yeah, we see some of it. Definitely, crowds at the track and interest levels. So that is a good thing in a race like Atlanta. That was it was a crazy race, but I think it was pretty good for the sport. And probably gets a lot of fans, a lot of people that maybe didn't look at it before or wasn't sure if they saw that race. They got to be excited about it when they see it. So we see it. Like I say, it's I think the crowds are a little bigger than they'd been. And it just a lot of good involvement with sponsors, different people coming into the sport. It's really, really good to see looks like it's trending in the right direction here lately.
All right, before we end the show here, we have a couple minutes left, and I'm curious, qualifying kind of differs by every track, but from your perspective, how important is good qualifying at Bristol?
It's really important. I say this every week now. When I have we have our pre-race meeting in the hall,
Yeah.
it's like, guys, track position is really important. It's like, I know I say this every week, but it really is important this week, and it's no different at Bristol. It's not a ton of fall off. I guess last fall we probably had a little bit more with the right side tires wearing a little bit, but it's still just a really track position intensive race, and we'll see if the grooves open up, if the top line comes in, that helps that a little bit. You can get a little movement if you can work the bottom and the top. So I'm hopeful that happens. We'll just see how it works with the conditions and weather. It's a lot of it's dependent on that, but generally pretty track position important. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And it's going to be fun. It really is. It's going to be fun this weekend at the last great Coliseum in sport. Scott, great to spend time with you. Good luck this weekend. Bring us home a W. And thanks a lot for coming by. We appreciate you stopping by, hanging out for the hour.
All right. Thanks. Enjoyed it.
Really fun hanging out with him. He is the crew chief of the number 17 car, the Ford Mustang for Roush Fenway Racing, which this week is sponsored by BuildSubmarines.com. The number 6 car is going to be primary sponsored by King's Hawaiian. And again, guys, if you want a cool career, seriously, what is cooler than helping America by building a submarine? BuildSubmarines.com is the way to get that done. For all the great people at Roush Fenway, Thomas Burfield, Elijah Burke, Kevin Woods, the very handsome Brandon Lee, Alec Walt, all the great people, we thank them for their time and for their effort. It is Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. Thank you, everybody.